Hello, everybody. My name is Clare, and welcome back to the Garde podcast. If you tuned in for the previous episode, you have heard me talk about the foil already. Today, I will be talking about the saber and its history. Then, I will be interviewing my coach, Jason, about his teaching and fencing experience. The saber originated towards the end of the Middle Ages, and is commonly associated with having a curved blade. But there were sabers that had straight blades at the time. The curved blades are more heavy duty and were used for cutting through heavy armor. The straight blade was used for thrusting because the blade didn't curve back towards the user's hands. The closest modern-day swords to these are the rapier and the saber. The saber is used for slashing and cutting, while the rapier was used for thrusting. The saber was favored in the 17th century for cavalry over the rapier, and while at it, it became a symbol of cavalry. In the 19th century, it became popular among the army for training. But compared to the past, the modern-day sabers used for sport are way lighter than the training swords in the past. An Italian fencing master developed a lightweight sporting saber that could be manipulated the same speed and accuracy as the foil. And it was the last among the freed for the swords to get electrified. The name of the sword, saber, comes from different origins. The word saber comes from the French word saber, heavy curved sword, saber in German, and sabia in Hungarian, from the root zabni, to cut. But we don't have to get too indefinite. The saber has a straight V-shaped blade with a guard that curves back down to the bottom of the handle, providing a little more protection for the hand. Compared to the foil, the tip in sport is not blunted the same and the blade is dull. The tip is bent and curved back towards the blade to prevent injury. The target area is from the waist up. This is because it is contrary to the rules of chivalry to hurt the horse of your opponent. That is why the target area is not the whole body. It also follows the rules of right-of-way to score a point as the foil, but it also depends on how well you present the attack. The better you present, the higher of a chance that you'll be given the point. Compared to the foil and epee, it is the most fast-paced of the three. Saber requires speed, reflexes, and quick thinking. Saber fencers commonly act on instinct, developed from lots of practice and training. After I did foil, I decided to learn how to fence saber when the opportunity presented itself. I personally think that saber is easier than foil because I could hit with the edges of the blade and I didn't have to hit with the tip. Accuracy is important for foil to get points, whereas there was a bigger range of target area available for saber. Currently, I have been doing saber for almost a year, and I can easily say I have been through a lot. It takes time to develop skill, and I think it can be a fun sport after a while. Now that the saber is more familiar to you all, it is time for a quiz. Like last time, there are 8 questions with 15 seconds to answer each one. There are questions this time with more or less than 4 answers, so be aware. Try your best to not look back for the podcast to get the answers. Now, let's get started. Question number 1. When did the saber originate from? A. The 19th century. B. Towards the end of the Middle Ages. C. The 6th century. Or D. The Bronze Age. If you chose B, you are correct. The saber originated from the Middle Ages, which began from 476 AD and ended around 1450 AD. Question number 2. What was the saber favored for? A. Cavalry. B. Army training. C. Ground forces. Or D. Both A and B, cavalry and army training. If you chose D, you are correct. The saber was favored for cavalry and army training because it was better to use than the rapier and was considered as an essential to train with. Question number 3. What origin does the word saber have? A. French, German, and Hungarian. B. Italian and German. C. French and Italian. Or D. Hungarian and Spanish. If you chose A, you are correct. The word saber originated from French, German, and Hungarian roots. Question number 4. What does the Garde look like? A. A half bowl. B. A crescent. C. Curving down to the bottom of the handle. D. It wraps around the handle. If you chose C, you are correct. Unlike the foils Garde, which is shaped like a crescent, the Garde curves down towards the bottom of the handle. Question number 5. What is the target area of the saber? A. The torso. B. Everything. C. Everything from the waist up. D. Everything from the knees up. If you chose C, you are correct. The target area is from the waist up and is not everything or the torso. Number 6. Why is the target area everything from the waist up? A. It is against the rules of chivalry to harm the opponent's horse. B. There are important organs above the waist. C. They wanted a different target area from the foil and epee. D. The legs were not a common target. If you chose A, you are correct. It is against the rules of chivalry to harm your opponent's horse. It is considered dishonorable. Question number 7. What is fencing saber like? A. Slow pace with room to make a lot of decisions. B. Moderate pace with some room to make decisions. C. Fast pace and mostly instinct dependent. chose C, you are correct. Saber is fast-paced, and fencers commonly react under instincts that they have built through a lot of training and practice. Their skill builds the more they fence. Question number 8. What is the difference between the curved and straight blade sabers? A. Curved sabers were faster than straight blades. B. Curved sabers were used for heavy-duty cuts. C. There is no difference but the shape of the blade. D. Curved sabers were used commonly by pirates. E. The straight blades didn't curve back towards the hand. F. B and E. Curved sabers were used for heavy-duty cuts, and the straight blades did not curve back towards the hand. If you chose F, you are correct. The curved sabers were used for cutting through heavy armor, and straight blades didn't curve back towards the hand, making them more preferred over the curved blades. Now that the quiz is done, let us hear from my coach, Jason. What got you into fencing?
Oh, that's a good question. I think, in elementary school, and we saw a demonstration. So after that, I decided, like, hey, I wanted to try it. So that's kind of how it all got started.
Nice. What sword did you start off doing?
I started fencing foil, and I was kind of at the point where I love fencing, but I was at the point where I wanted to quit, and I wanted to try something new.
Yeah.
So I got into saber fencing. There was like one other kid there that wanted to do it, so we tried it together, and kind of the rest is history. After that, I did a little bit in elementary school and middle school, and then it kind of went into high school. I kind of switched clubs. I started to go to West Side Fencing Center in Los Angeles, and then I kind of stopped doing foil, and I was did nothing but saber.
Okay, nice. What got you into coaching fencing?
Okay, so I fenced until I was around 21, 22, so college level. And then I decided to take a break from fencing and just focus on school. So went through school, did that, and then after maybe it was 10 years, I was right around, I think, when I was 30, I decided, hey, I want to be a little bit more active. I'm going to go back to fencing because I know what a great workout it can be both physically and mentally. So I decided to just go back to fencing, and within a few months of actually going back, I ended up getting a coaching job at Columbus Fencing and Fitness in Columbus, Ohio.
Nice. How long have you coached?
I have coached since 2011.
That's around the time I was born.
It's been a while. Yeah, 2011. I started coaching.
Yeah.
But I would say before then, when I was in, I was going to a junior community college. Mm-hmm. I was actually helping out with a high school team. So actually, after I left fencing a few years later, I actually came back into it, and I got a job kind of assistant coaching, helping out a high school fencing team. And I did that for a little bit, not too long.
Have you only coached in Ohio and here?
California.
California.
So California, Ohio, and now New York.
Okay. Nice. What tournaments have you participated in the past?
Well, let's talk about like what tournaments like my students have.
Yeah.
How about that? So
Okay.
my students have competed in all levels, from local competition, regional, national events, and international events. They have went to.
That's pretty good.
We've had when I mean when I was at Columbus Fencing and Fitness, I had many students that went on to go fence on the collegiate level from many different schools like Ohio State. There was Denison University, there Columbia, Penn State, just to name a few.
Okay. What memorable experiences have you had?
My biggest, I think my most memorable experience is actually like watching students grow and get better over time. Um, I remember one experience was I was at a national tournament, and it was, I think, one of the first ones where we had a student, and she made it to that like final round of 8, which is like a big deal at a national competition to go that far out of hundreds of competitors. Like that was like a first like real moment. Like I remember when I was a student and like I was up on that podium, and now I got to see one of my students up on that podium. Like it was just a great feeling.
How long did it take for you to get your rating?
Oh, you know, ratings, it's kind of a subjective question.
Yeah.
Ratings can they can take a long time to get. Especially when you're starting off young. Not very many fencers are rated, or you'll go to a certain competition and there's not enough fencers there to get a rating.
Yeah.
You would have to win the tournament to get that one rating.
Yeah.
Or you go to larger tournaments and there's multiple ratings that are given out. But a rating can take a long time, but I think it's always a nice goal for a student to have that's actively like competing and wanting to get better, kind of like at their craft.
What do you think is the hardest about fencing saber?
Hardest thing about fencing saber, I don't know. You would have to say like it's mentally challenging. You're making split second decisions. It can be sometimes very frustrating. But also sometimes very rewarding too. It's like you're trying, new techniques that you're learning. You're trying to evolve what you're doing, but you're also up against a competitor that's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So not everything you do is going to work on every single fencer.
What do you like about fencing?
What do I like about fencing? I'm going to have to go with it's challenging. It gives a lot of physical challenges and mental challenges. I think it's, whatever I want to say, something that I always like look forward to doing. Of course, a few times a week now.
Yeah.
I always find it challenging. I found it rewarding. I'm not as active as I used to be because I'm not actively fencing. I'm coaching. There's a little bit of a difference. But that's one thing I do enjoy. I think, the coaching aspect of it is kind of made me kind of like fall in love back with fencing, because there was a certain point where like I didn't want to pick up my fencing bag at all. I was like done.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother story.
If someone decided to do fencing, what would your advice be for them?
Yeah, if somebody wanted to try fencing, I would say like look at your local community center, see if they offer a program that just is like beginning fencing, or you can walk into a fencing club and be like, hey, I want to try fencing, and they can kind of like go through the steps of what you would need to do. Like oftentimes you're going to work one-on-one with a coach before you get into a beginning class, or sometimes you go into a beginning class. It all just depends on kind of what program you're trying to get into. But definitely, if somebody's looking to get into fencing, you can go into usfencing.org and you can look up clubs from all around the country.
That's all. So thank you for your time. Yeah, that's it.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Now that you all know more about the saber and have heard about the experience of a saber fencer, we will be talking about the epee in the next episode. The epee is different from all the other swords we've talked about so far, and it is quite different, but it kind of is similar to the foil. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you all have a nice day.